creates a broad class of losers with a stake in sabotaging the new political order. And it also presents the challenge of how the new positions will be filled in a way that does not bias the state. Thus, what is true for electoral administration is true for these other dimensions of the state: the judiciary, the police, the civil service. The goal must be to seek a neutral, professional, depoliticized state without systematically favoring one party or another. This has to be a major goal of a political pact. Delegating to nonpartisan bodies these crucial recruitment functions for the police, the judiciary, and the civil service more generally. Now, we can enlarge this concept of neutral referees. A reasonably independent and neutral electoral commission, police service commission, judicial service commission, civil service commission are all manifestations of the larger principle of horizontal accountability. All of these, if they're neutral and independent, represent agencies of restraint, bodies that are capable of checking the power of the executive branch and potentially of one another. They are among the institutional means for building a rule of law, for ensuring that the laws will be impartially enforced, and ensuring that no one will be advantaged or punished purely as a result of where they stand in the relations of political power. When there are independent institutions to constrain executive power, the stakes in political conflict are lowered, because losing an election does not mean losing everything. Those who win control of government are constrained in what they can do by the Constitution and the law. It's been my experience in studying a wide range of transitional situations that the deepest fear that drives competing parties to lawlessness and violence is not that they will lose an election, but that in losing they will lose everything and thus be permanently shut out of power. Building a system of mutual security, again, means reducing the stakes in political competition. What other institutions can strengthen this system of horizontal accountability? There's a whole literature on this, but I would simply underscore in addition the importance of other strong, professional, and independent bodies. For example, a counter-corruption commission, a human rights commission, an ombudsman to investigate citizen complaints against the state, an independent central bank, and whatever type of executive legislative structure there is, whether it's parliamentary, presidential, or somewhere in between, a national legislature with significant autonomous powers, including powers for minority parties to chair some legislative committees, to have significant legislative staffs, and to conduct parliamentary investigations. Now, I know you've heard from my colleague John Kerry, who has much more expertise on many of the other questions of institutional design than I do, but I would like to offer, in conclusion, a few thoughts on some of the other challenges of institutional design that countries such as Tunisia should pay attention to. And if I repeat anything you said, John, I apologize. First of all, pay attention to the way institutions fit together. Not only executive structure, but also the electoral system and the vertical distribution of power. The most consensual system that ensures the widest sharing of power is a system of proportional representation, and a certain kind of proportional representation. I know John probably talked about it in a previous session. But the most majoritarian system is also parliamentary. And that's a parliamentary system with either a first-past-the-post electoral system, or frankly, any other electoral system that gives one party a majority in parliament. If a parliamentary system is joined to an electoral system that produces a single dominant party in parliament, then the prime minister that emerges out of that parliamentary system may be, like Prime Minister Erdogan in Turkey, more powerful than most democratically elected presidents. And I think that is not an outcome that is conducive to building a system system of mutual security in tense and difficult situations like this one. Second, pay attention to context. It's hard to get a constitution perfectly right, but it may be possible to look at the situation, see how general principles are going to work out, and decide that there are bad choices to be avoided. I will say in Iraq, when the UN chose the type of proportional representation system for Iraq that it did in January of 2005, many of us warned this was going to be a disaster, because with no districts at all, but simply a nationalist system, it was going to turn into an identity referendum and inflame the sectional divisions of the country. Now, a word on what John has written about and I believe spoken about here this afternoon. Obviously, the type of PR matters. I won't repeat his arguments there, but it is striking to note that just within the system of proportional representation, under one formula for assigning seats to votes, a party can win 37% of the votes and win a little over 40% of the seats, so a very proportional outcome. Or it can win 37% of the vote and get nearly 2/3 of the seats. That's a pretty dramatic difference, with huge consequences. Seek a comprehensive integrated system in institutional and constitutional design. And here I would note the importance of worrying in terms of diffusing power and giving everyone a stake in the system, the importance of the vertical distribution of power as well. I think it's a matter of general principle of democratic quality, as well as a prudent pursuit for a divided society to have directly elected, democratically elected, lower levels of government, at least at the municipal level, and depending on the country and its circumstances, perhaps an intermediate layer of provincial or regional authority as well. I have some thoughts on executive system structure here, which I will pass over in order to conclude within the time allotted. I think it's very important, this may be passé now for Egypt and even for Tunisia, but I'd say for other Arab countries in the future to have a broad, inclusive, participatory process to draft a new constitution. Constitutions turn out to be more legitimate and more sustainable when there's been a broad societal dialogue and an effort to use the process of constitutional debate as an opportunity for civic education as well. It's rarely possible to get full consensus on constitutional design, but the search for broad agreement, for an inclusive political pact, rather than for narrow majoritarian domination, so that the Constitution is something that political parties and forces across the political system can live with and accept, even if they don't all love it, is a very important condition for establishing a system of mutual security. What I've articulated here is, I realize, a very demanding agenda, but if democracy is going to take root in formidably challenging circumstances, these challenges need to be taken up. A third of all the democracies that have existed during this great third wave of democratization over the last nearly 40 years, a third of them have broken down. And the failure rate has been much higher in countries that have never, in their modern era, had a democracy before, which is, of course, the case with all of these Arab countries. Seek democracy in a deeply divided country, and the failure rate rises further. The transitional period, when the rules of the game are being written and the patterns of future political conduct are being forged, represents a priceless opportunity to begin to build a system of mutual security. It is an opportunity that may not come again for a very long time and should not be missed. Thank you.